Compost requires a balance of brown matter and green matter. Those are the ingredients in what's called the compost recipe. Brown matter refers to things like wood chips, dried leaves, corn stover, which is, stalks, corn husks, and then also things like straw. Anything that has more carbon material is referred to as brown matter. Where green matter refers to fresh things. Food scraps are a great example of green matter. They're a little bit more nitrogen in the carbon to nitrogen ratio. And other examples of green matter would include things like coffee grounds or fresh grass clippings or any sort of herbaceous plant growth like, tomato plants that you need to pull out of the field freshly. That would be green matter. Now, as a home composter, you need to think about how to make this recipe work for you. When can you actually get those ingredients? When it comes to brown matter, like these dried leaves, you need to think about when do you have a lot of leaves available on hand. Oftentimes that happens in the fall, where you're going to need to add brown matter to your pile throughout the year. So one of the best practices you can do is to add brown matter to yard waste bags, to trash cans, anywhere where you can store it in a pile, even in a chicken fence container. That's a way to store brown matter for long periods of time to use throughout the year. Green matter is something that you might be producing throughout the year, especially if you're saving these food scraps, especially if you're saving, carrot peels, ends of vegetables, things like that, coffee grounds. Presumably you're generating that throughout the year. If you find yourself having lots of brown matter, lots of leaves, but you don't have enough of those table scraps or fresh greens to add to your pile, you can actually buy alfalfa meal or rabbit food or horse food at the co-op. And that's a really good way to add some nitrogen to a compost pile that's really just been a pile of leaves. And this will kind of heat up the pile and get those microbes active, give them the nitrogen that they need to actively compost. One last example of green matter that would be important: if you have access to chicken manure or other livestock or poultry, that is something that would serve as green matter for your piles. Maybe you raise chickens. Well, that's going to be green matter throughout the year as well. As you're balancing your browns and your greens, your carbon and your nitrogen ratios, you're really just going to have to think about what works best for you. If you enjoy doing that pencil to paper math, then maybe the mathematical model and looking up some of the charts that tell you the carbon to nitrogen ratio of what brown matter you have, or the carbon to nitrogen ratio of what green matter you have, is something that would excite you and would really give you a great compost pile. If you're just worried about getting rid of some of your food waste and generating compost, then maybe you can just do some trial and error. If you're worried about making some odors that are unpleasant, it's always possible to just err on the side of extra brown matter, because the carbon source doesn't produce that sort of odor. And so you can kind of do trial and error and not have much risk of, those bad smells. But again, it's about making sure the recipe works for your lifestyle, it works for your compost process, and that you're getting what you want out of the composting.